Welcome back. In our last video, we brought our world to life with an enemy AI that patrols our platforms, but now if we touch it, we just awkwardly bump into each other. Today, we draw our swords. We're going to build a melee combat system so our player can swing the weapon and defeat the enemy. But combat goes both ways. If we accidentally walk into the enemy, we're going to take some damage, play a death animation, and learn how to write a coroutine to lay on the ground for a few seconds before respawning. Let's get to work. By the end of this video, you should be able to use animation triggers for one-shot animations, recycle physics 2D overlap circle to create invisible weapon hitbox, use on collision enter 2D to take damage from enemies, and write an IE numerator coroutine to pause code execution. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is in our animator introduce a brand new parameter. Over here on the left, let's click this plus button and go down to trigger, and we're going to name this trigger attack. And what a trigger is like a light switch or even a doorbell. You press it once, it fires the animation, and then instantly pops back out. So create your attack trigger, and then we're going to create two more. Sorry, we should be on the player. So if you're not on the player, make sure you're on the player animator when you do this. So we're going to create two more. A death. We'll name it die. And then a parameter that's a trigger, and this is going to be called respawn. Remember, type them. However you type them is how you're going to have to type them later on in the code, so please make sure that you're spelling them properly. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on any state and choose make transition. We're going to come up to the attack trigger, and we're going to make sure that we click on our transition arrow. Make sure that has exit time is unchecked. Under conditions, we're going to press this plus sign, and we're going to come down here to attack, and that sets up our attack. Now for our death, let's move some things around so it looks a little less jumbled. I'll move the death up here. So for our death, we're going to any state, make transition, go up to the death, and then this transition arrow, make sure it's unchecked for has exit time. The condition will be die, but for our death animation, we're going to click make transition. We're going to go to idle, and we're going to choose this transition arrow, and this time we're going to have exit time, has exit time unchecked. The condition though this time is going to be respawn. So that's with our player. So now we need an invisible hitbox for our sword. Let's go ahead and go into our scene view, click on our player in the hierarchy, press F to focus on the player, and then we're going to right click on the player himself. And we're going to right click on the player. We're going to choose create an empty. We're going to name this attack point. Now we need to drag this object slightly in front of the character where the sword swings. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come down here and select the attack animation. I'm going to start to play it and see where the apex of the swing is, and it looks like it's going to be right here in this area. So I'm going to take this attack point and I'm actually going to move it just in front, something about like that. Now, for our enemy, we need to add a new layer for our enemy, and that layer needs to be. Okay. Now, click on your spear enemy. Let's focus in on him. We need to add a new layer. So click over here in the inspector, come down here to add layer. We're going to choose, come down here to layer 6 and just type in enemy. between videos, I also did tag the enemy. I created a tag for the enemy. You just click on the drop down for tag, click add tag, and then press the plus sign, type in enemy. You can come back over here and tag it, because I wasn't sure how I was going to do this video quite yet, but I ended up deciding on using layers instead of tag, but it doesn't hurt to have both. So the reason why we're going to tag it layer is just like we did with our ground detection. We're going to tell our code to specifically look for this layer when the sword is swinging, and then it's going to run the damage. Alright, so now let's go ahead and open up our player controller. We're going to find that in our scripts folder under player controller. So what we're going to do is add our variables up here at the top first, right under the animator. What we have going on first is we have a reference to our attack point, the transform, so the positional data, position rotation data for our attack point, even though we're only going to focus on the positional data for this. We're going to have an attack range, so a float that represents that. The layer mask for the enemy layer that we created. And then we're gonna have a spawn point, a slot for our spawn point. We've also added a private boolean that we're gonna use later on called isDead, so when the player dies we can stop the player from moving. Now let's go ahead and scroll down to our update function, and so let's see. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and add in our update right here underneath our movement stuff, this input.get button down fire 1, and then a method that we haven't defined yet called attack. So fire 1 is Unity's default left mouse button or left control key, and when we press it, it'll run this method that we're going to define right now by adding in this bit of code here. So look closely at this. When we attack, we fire our animation trigger to play the visual sword swing. Then we recycle what we learned from video 7 and draw an overlap circle at our attack point. If it touches anything with the enemy layers, it puts them in a list, and the for each loop just goes through that list and destroys every enemy it touched. Now let's go ahead and try that out. Save your script and head back to Unity. Alright, back in Unity, let's go ahead and press play and let's test it out. Diamond still collects, so nothing broke with that. Let's go ahead and jump. Make this jump. Whoop. Make this jump. And swing. And nothing happened. Why didn't anything happen? Well, we didn't set that stuff up. So let's go ahead and just, while we're playing, drag it in. Whoops, not the ground check. We want the attack point. Go ahead and set that up. Change our enemy layers to enemy. And now let's try it again. Now something I noticed is there's a few loops with the attack that we gotta fix. And that's an easy fix. So let's go ahead and swing though. And it works. Maybe pops up a little too fast before the swing. So I might have to speed that swing up. But real quick, to fix the looping, let's click on our player attack. And where it says loop time, just uncheck that. We're also going to do that for the death. Now, because we made those adjustments during run time, they didn't stick. So real quick in our player inspector, change enemy layers to enemy. Add your attack point down here under attack point, and that should work. Let's go to our attack and speed that up. We'll bring it down to the 4s. be a little too fast now, but let's see. Nah, it looks alright. So, now, let's give it another quick run through. And see, it doesn't loop, but he does kind of stick there. So, we have to fix that too. Alright, so that looks better. The easiest way to fix that is in our player attack. What we can actually do is add another animation here, his idle. So we'll go back to idle 1, and we're going to drag this into his, might help if I select a player. Alright. Now we're gonna go to his attack, and we should be able to just drag this and add this here. Let's see, we'll put it at 28, and now he doesn't get stuck. That's perfect. So there's that. Now let's set up our enemy, and then we'll get into some damage. Alright, so we have our player looking great, but our enemy is still pacing back and forth. Let's give them their attack and death animations. Click on your enemy object in the hierarchy. Just like we did in our player, we're going to go to our animator. You should already see the animations there. Just as a quick note, you do need to come over here to your animations and turn off the looping for them as well. So we're going to create 2 triggers this time. So parameters, trigger, we're going to name this attack, and then the second one is going to be die. We're going to right click on any state, make a transition, and go to attack. This transition bubble is going to be called attack, and then we're going to do the same thing for any state, make transition for our death animation, and make sure that the die is the condition there. So we got attack there and die there. Now we need to write some code that tells the enemy to actually use these animations. So go ahead and, because we haven't saved them yet, save your Unity project and then open up your enemy AI script. Alright, so we're going to add this reference to the enemy's animator, because he's got different animations now. We're also going to add in a bit of code in the start menu to grab the component for the enemy. Alright, so what we're going to do next is we're going to add in on collision and 2D event, and I'm missing a curly bracket there. And so because we're using layers instead of the tags, we're going to use an on collision enter 2D. So what's going to happen is if the two collide, they're going to compare the tag and look to see if it's player. If it's a player, it's going to attack. If it does, or when it attacks, it's going to hit. If it hits the player, sorry, it's going to look for the die method. Now there is an error there, and that's because we haven't done the death method yet for the player. So once we do that, then that will go away. But while we're here, let's go ahead and do our death method for the enemy. So underneath our on collision enter event, we have our death method. What happens is we tell it to stop pacing back and forth by setting its speed to 0. We turn off its collider component, and then we set the trigger to die, and then we destroy the game object after about a second. That'll give it time for the animation that we set up to play. So go ahead and save that. Let's go back into our player controller and let's set up that death method next. Alright, so we need to add our death method or die method to our player, and once we save that, if we go to our enemy, we should see that now there's no longer that red underline under die. That sets up, but now we have another problem. We have this death sequence, which is a coroutine that we have to define through an IE numerator. So before we put that in, make sure that you are using system.collections up here at the top, and then we come down here and you're gonna add in private IE numerator. So here first we set is dead equal to true, so the player can't press any buttons. We fire the die animation and freeze their rigid body so that they stop sliding. Then we hit the magic yield return for wait for seconds. We're gonna set it to 2 seconds. The computer literally stops reading this method and counts for 2 seconds while the death animation plays out. Once the 2 seconds pass, then the code resumes and it's going to teleport us back to the spawn point, setting the respawn trigger, and then which puts us back in an idle state, and then sets is dead is equal to false. So with all that running, let's go ahead and save our script and go back to Unity and try it out. Alright, now that we're back in Unity, go ahead and press play if you haven't done so already. That was weird. That's a little bug we'll have to fix. Alright. So there's our enemy. If we come up here, we already know we can kill it. Let's have it attack us. And there's another bug right there we'll have to fix. Let's at least check the death of the enemy and see how that works. So we got 2 small bugs we can fix, and if I could jump up there. Alright, so the enemy death sequence didn't play, so I'll have to figure that out. Why it might be happening just too fast. Let's see. So it doesn't even look like it triggered. Let's try to diagnose it, shall we? First things first, we got 3 small issues. Well, one is the attack. So I noticed that the attack doesn't go back to the player. So there's, I think if I come over here and I make a transition going to the idle, and then we just set the has exit time, leave that, and then we'll make it 0.1. If we press play, it should go back to idle from there. So let's give that a shot to test that out. We could probably make it faster, but but that's gonna fix it. That's gonna fix that one. So we'll change this to 0.01 and save that. Now for our script, the player death is going to be an easy fix up here in the update we don't tell it to stop reading anything, right? So what we need to say is add an if check at the top. If is dead, and then it's going to do a thing, and that thing is, we're going to say return, which is nothing. We don't want it to do anything. So because what happens is it checks that ground check is still there, so it pops us back up to idle because it thinks that we're still on the floor. I mean, we are. We're just on the floor dead. So that should fix that. So let's go ahead and run through and check that real quick. I should really fix that platform. It's way too low. I can't run underneath it. Let's jump up here. Let's come over this way. Why can't I now jump up there? There we go. Swing, and a miss, and I'm dead. Alright, so falls off, flat on the face, already dead. So that fixes that bug right there. And now for the glaring one is the enemy. Alright, so let's go to our code. I don't see anything wrong with this because it's supposed to wait for 1 second. I mean, I suppose we could make it 2 seconds, but I don't think it's going to be that long because the enemy animation doesn't even last a second. So let's go ahead and check our player controller in our attack function. Here we just tell it to destroy. That's the issue. Alright, so we never called the new so enemy dot get component enemy AI. That's what we were missing. We didn't tell it to actually, die. We just told it to destroy itself. So we can do that. And oh, you know what? That's what it is. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. Alright, so now let's try it again, because this video is already getting long. But game development is not without its errors, right? So let's press play. Let's try this again. Press play. Pressed it twice now. I may have to replace my mouse and get a new one. Alright, we're moving. Still swinging. Alright, that's a lot better that it... Alright. That 0.01 is a lot better for that. Alright. Now. There we go. I played the animation real quick. It flashed, had the little sparks. Died after a second. So it kind of held on a little bit longer than I'd like. But at least it registers that it died. It froze. I'll probably change that to like half a second in the code. So if we stop it and come down here to the enemy AI and have it 0.5f, and then that'll be faster. So there we go. Finally have it working. And working combat system between the player and the enemy. I could probably it shouldn't wait till it touches the player. There should be some sort of like detection there. So in the next video I'll probably work on that and then after and we're gonna work on cleaning up our code a bit, because we have a lot of things going on that could be really condensed into making the code a lot cleaner. The diamond's fine, the score manager's fine, hazard's fine, but like the enemy movement here can be fixed. The player controller can be tightened up and cleaned up. Its attack stuff can be cleaned up and all put into just a bit cleaner code. just to move stuff around, so it shouldn't be too long of a video. So keep learning, keep building. I'll see you in the next one.